Art Lewis Show. We'll start out with open phones this hour. Next hour, we have a couple of guests coming in to talk about the upcoming MLK March, Martin Luther King. And at 11 o'clock, we're going to learn about KNC carpet cleaning on Focus. That's what's ahead for this Friday morning. Turned out to be a pretty damp one, although it looks like it's about ready to pass. And the temperature is going to start plummeting. We hit what we believe is a high today, and it's going to fall from the 50s down to the 30s here by 11 o'clock or so. Oh, my goodness. Welcome to Michigan, right? I want to start out talking a little baseball. Tiger baseball. Tiger pitcher baseball. Tarik Skubal pitcher Tiger baseball. The Tigers and Tarik Skubal, the reigning Cy Young Award winner for 2 seasons in a row, are locked in contract negotiations and disagreeing with each other. And they have now missed a deadline. January 8th, which was yesterday, at 8 p.m., was the deadline for them to come to an agreement to avoid arbitration. Skubal has filed a petition for $32 million salary for 2026. The Tigers came in at $19 million, a difference of $13 million. Now what happens, an arbitration panel is going to review this. There is what they call a midpoint. Now, in this case, since the Tigers offered 19 and Skubal proposed 32, the midpoint is $25.5 million. What the arbitration panel will decide is whether Skubal is worth more or less than the $25.5 million. And whichever they go, they revert to the numbers from the Tigers and Skubal. So if he is worth, in their opinion, less than the $25.5, he will play for $19 million in 2026 to fulfill his contract. If they feel he is worth more than the $25.5, they will then award him the $32 million. They cannot vary from those amounts. In other words, even though they're using a $25.5 million midpoint as determinant as to whether he's better or worse, they could not award him, say, $25.5 million. They either have to award him the 19 or the 32. There's only one thing that could happen that would negate the arbitration. And that's if Skubal and the Tigers were to sign a multi-year contract. That could be done before the arbitration hearing. And it could also be done in a way that he makes a certain salary this year and has options in the final. And also, he's in an unusual position. There are different rules for this. There's a 5-year rule. And because Skubal has more than 5 years of MLB playing time, as a matter of fact, he has 5 years and 114 days of service, he can now point to others in his situation, like Max Scherzer, who made $43.3 million last year from 2022 to 2024, or Zach Wheeler's $42 million from 2025 to 2027, arguing that his elite performance warrants that kind of salary. Not the low end that the Tigers are offering. So this is going to be interesting to watch. I'm guessing, and that's purely a guess on my part. I'm not an expert in all these things, but just as a casual observer, given the fact that he's won the Cy Young Award 2 years in a row, and his numbers are good, I suspect the arbitration panel may award him the bigger number. He's certainly equal to the Scherzers of the world, and I suspect they're going to award him a big nut. Then the next thing that has to happen when this season gets down near the end, what did then the Tigers do with Skubal? Because if they do nothing and he goes to free agency and he's taken by somebody else for a healthy salary, and the Tigers don't want to meet that, it's goodbye. They get nothing. Is he trade bait? I don't know. Depends on, I think there's a number of things that come into play in all of this. One of them is, will the Tiger organization be a contender in the 2026 season? Now, I think they will be. And if they have a real shot at traveling fairly far in the playoffs, even maybe to the World Series, that changes the situation, because obviously Skubal would be a big part of that. They would want him to be on the team if they're making a run for the World Series. Does that open up their pocketbooks for the long term? Because it's projected that any long-term contract would be $400 million or more. I guess I don't know what's in the Ilitch's piggy bank, so I can't tell what they're willing to do. If the dad were still alive, if Mike Ilitch were still alive, Skubal would get a contract. I'm convinced of that. Ilitch was not afraid to spend. I think Chris is a little more pragmatic. Doesn't open the book quite as fast as Dad did. It's going to be an interesting thing to watch, I think. You know, and again, I'm a sports fan in the fact that I like to watch it and all that. I have no idea about stats. I don't follow the stats. I don't keep stats for any sport. I'm just an observer. I like to watch. It's fun to watch. In recent years, I've started watching more football than I ever did in the past. Not knowing much about it, but it's fun to watch. The only sport that I don't pay a lot of attention to, and I probably will start paying more attention to it because of the Pistons, is basketball. Not because I don't like it, but simply because I never played it and never understood the finer points of it. The one thing about baseball and football, I understand the rules, I understand the finer points. And my favorite sport to watch is hockey. Never played that either, but I have history with it with my dad in New York City going to see the Rangers and always the Red Wings. It was pretty funny because we would go down to the old Madison Square Garden in New York to see the Rangers play, and their opponent was always this team in red. Now, granted, back then there were only 6 teams, so I was only going to see a few choices, but I never saw any other team other than the Detroit Red Wings play the New York Rangers. And the reason I found out later in life was that my dad didn't care about the Rangers. He was a Red Wings fan. So that's all I ever saw. And those were the days when you went to a hockey game, you were dressed in your finest. You know, it was like going to church. You had on your suit and tie, and the women had on their furs and all that stuff. It was a sight to see. at a hockey game. Those days are gone. However, getting back to the original conversation here, toward the end of the month, there will be the arbitration hearing for Tarik Skubal if, as I said, they don't come to some long-term agreement, which I doubt will happen. And we'll have to see what happens from there. There's another piece of baseball news, and I'll get to that right after this break. Let me take a moment to talk about your tires. Yeah, you know, those things that you roll on in your automobile. Are they winter tires or are they regular, everyday, all-season tires? There is a difference. And here in Michigan, when we get snow and ice, you would want that difference under you. You say, what is that difference? Well, my friends at Quick Lane Freeland, where they sell all their tires at just $5 over cost, can explain to you the difference between winter tires and all-season tires. And I've asked John from Quick Lane Freeland to do just that.
Hello, Art. Yes, winter tires are made with a pliable rubber compound that includes silica to stay flexible and maintain grip in freezing temperatures, unlike harder all-season tires which stiffen and lose traction in the cold. This flexible compound allows the tire to better conform to the road surface, providing superior grip and traction on snow and ice to keep you safe.
Thanks, John. Stop in to Quick Lane Freeland at McDonald Ford and have your tires checked to see if they're up to snuff for the winter. Have them check your cooling system while you're there. It's the place to go for all of your routine maintenance. Quick Lane Freeland at McDonald Ford. Two names that stand ready to help you with all your automotive needs. Stop in today.
It's game.
Main Street Sports Group. There was no statement as to why. However, it is known that FanDuel had missed a payment to the St. Louis Cardinals, one of the 9 teams under the broadcaster's umbrella, and also missed a payment to the Miami Marlins. It's not known whether they missed a payment to the Tigers or not. But the Tigers are one of the 9 teams that have canceled their contracts. Now, under this cancellation, the teams are free to negotiate with FanDuel Sports on their own for themselves. If not, Major League Baseball said it will step in and provide those games. And what they've said, and Rob Manfred, who's the commissioner of baseball, put it in dollar terms. He said, quote, "Our focus, particularly given the point in the calendar, is to maximize the revenue that's available to the clubs, whether that's MLB Media or a third party." That from the commissioner, Rob Manfred. Nothing else has been put out. We don't know if there are negotiations going on with the Tigers and FanDuel or with MLB for that matter. So stay tuned, folks. And you should stay tuned anyway, because one way or another they're going to be here on WSGW. That's the good news. As they have been for 50 some odd years. I lost count. Charlie knows. I'll have to ask him how many years it's been. But that's the situation right now anyway. On the visual side, things may or may not change. And when I say may or may not, they may not change if the Tigers come to an agreement with FanDuel independently. But if they can't, then it's going to go to MLB, and MLB is going to provide the broadcasts. I'll have to wait and see how this all works out. Moving on. Since that wasn't very happy news, I've got more unhappy news. So, there was an article today in USA Today about consumer confidence. And the question was, and this is the headline, will inflation rise again? New survey reveals consumers' expectations. Now, at the end of last year, 2025, consumers were pessimistic, and the way they phrased it here, deeply pessimistic about the economy. This report was just released yesterday. And, forget the money and forget the dollars and the percentages and all of that for a minute. If consumers are indeed deeply pessimistic about the economy, that is not good news for the party in power. It never is. In this case, the Republicans stand to lose. Maybe the House, probably not the House and Senate, but one or the other. And respondents, those who answered the survey, said they expect in the near future to see inflation rise 3.4%, which is up, and have trouble paying down their debt in the next 3 months. And they're also concerned about finding a job. They don't think they'd be less than half, 43.1%, say they'd be able to find a job if they lost their current one. That's the lowest level in the history of the survey that date back to 2013. And today, we should get December job data, which shows a stark contrast to other data that suggests the economy remains relatively strong. Layoffs are low. Inflation has moderated. But the question is, where do we go from here? And this is an unusual time because even though the data looks relatively good, there seems to be a disconnect between that and the consumers. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. But again, if an economy is not doing well, the party in power tends to lose in midterm elections, which is why I have said that the president and his party have until about mid-spring to get their act in order, because once you get past, say, May, you get into June and July and August, they're in a re-election mode. They're not in a fixing mode. They're in a mouthing off mode, I call it, because they'll all tell you how they're going to fix it. But the reality is, if going into that period, consumer confidence is low and they're unhappy about the economy, where do they take it out? They take it out at the ballot box. So it's going to be an interesting year. There's no guarantees for the Republicans because their success or failure rides on the economy. And when I say the economy, I'm not talking about data. I'm not talking about what a jobs report says or what an inflation report says. When I'm talking about the economy, Mr. and Mrs. Consumer measure the economy by what comes out of their pocketbook when they go to the store. If you go to the grocery store and prices continue to rise, you have a negative belief of the economy. If you go to the grocery store and you see some moderation in price, as you have, for example, at the gas pump, then you might have a more positive view of the economy. But make no mistake, it's a pocketbook issue, not a data issue. They can put out all the surveys they want, all the data they want. Mr. and Miss America, they measure the data that comes out of their pocket, and then they vote. All right, we're going to take a break. Line's open for you if you'd like to chat about that or anything else. 989-752-6111.
It's a new year and time for
And we return here on the Art Lewis Show up to Bay City. We're going to go and we're going to talk to Dan this morning. Dan, good morning to you.
Good morning. You're probably right. Most of the time it's the economy's stupid, right? Isn't that what they...
That was the old line, yep.
Yeah. Well, I think this year we might have something added to that. And when we see a citizen being shot in the middle of the street, I know there's two sides to that story, but...
Well, yeah, there are.
I just... You know, when a president comes on minutes after it happens and says that it was a terrorist and she was ran over this, I mean, what the heck?
I don't know.
People can sue.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. If the president was not right in doing that, was the mayor right coming on and saying it was all garbage? And using language and using why he made public statements. And he's the mayor of Minneapolis, and he told them to go F off.
People that are in America and going to vote for a senator or a senator, they don't care what some guy says. They talk. The president of the United States speaks, and everybody in the whole United States listens to him. And he's also dropped the F-bomb and many, many other BS words, and then so we're supposed to judge.
No, I didn't say that. I'd say you have
using him as an example.
No, I think you have to take them both equally. They're both wrong in doing that. But I still tell you, all that may be true, and there may be some people swayed by it, but the majority of people vote their pocketbook.
Well, I said that's true, but when you add some things like this to it, it makes it a whole different ball game.
I don't think it does, but that's my opinion, and you have yours, and that's fine. You know, that's what makes a horse race. That's why we have two parties in this country, and probably should have third.
I don't even know if we have two parties anymore.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question. That's, that's a very interesting question. Discussion. But it's
all right, Art.
It's what I've learned over many, many decades of watching politics is there's nothing safe in the discussion. It can change on a dime.
Yeah, very true.
So, all right, Dan, I appreciate it.
Yeah, nice day. Yeah, and bundle up when you go home tonight.
Yeah, it's going to cool down again. I know. Welcome to Michigan. All right. Yeah. Thanks, Dan.
Okay.
Take care.
Have a good day.
You too. Gene, hang on. You'll be next after these notes.
Looking for an adventure this winter?
And we're back with you, back to our phones. Gene is in Bay City. Gene, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for taking my call.
Yep.
Right now, talking about November elections, right now the entire country is full of fear and hate. I don't think when people go to the polls, I don't think it's going to be just about the price of groceries. I don't think people are happy with what's going on. You know, the regular police, they were always taught to treat people in a decent, respectful manner. But with Trump saying he hates Democrats and he hates all of the immigrants.
So you don't think Democrats hate Trump? Is that what you're saying? Because I've heard them say that many times. They don't seem to agree to anything he does. They don't like him at all.
Well, when Trump says he hates people, I believe the ICE agents don't feel the same as the regular police, that they have to be respectful.
Well, I think let me tell you this, Gene. Let me tell you this. I'm the son of a federal agent. My father was a special agent for many, many, many years, and he would vehemently disagree with you.
But you see,
Well, I'm just telling you the way it is.
Don't you believe right now that the whole country is full of hate?
No, I think there is hate.
Afraid?
There is hate in the country. I think it's wrong to say the whole country, because I run into everyday people as I go about my business, you go about your business, and I go to restaurants and I do whatever I do, and I talk to people all the time, and the first thing out of their mouth isn't about hate. They want to know, hey, how's your family? What's going on?
Well,
What's going on?
that's because people are avoiding it because it's so terrible.
Well, all right, then you can
It's
look at
so
it that
terrible.
way.
Just like, you talking about sports, because you can't go with all this hate and vengeance all the time. You have to have some relief from that.
Well, I'll tell you what. I can only speak for myself. I don't have hate and vengeance in my heart.
I know.
And if you do, I'm sorry. But I hope you don't.
I can say it's been years and years since I ever felt any hate for anybody.
Okay, so let me ask you something then. Let me ask you something. I just told you I don't have hate and vengeance in my heart. You don't have hate and vengeance in your heart, right? Is that right? What makes you different than everybody else in the country?
Well, because the ICE agents have permission to treat people in a hateful way because the president is their leader.
No, they don't have permission. They don't have
everybody.
permission to treat people in a hateful way. They have permission to react to people, and they have a job to do. Their job happens to be in the forefront right now because immigration was such a big topic. Are what they doing is what they're doing perfect? Very few things are. But for the most part,
with this shooting, there was a doctor in the crowd, and he went.
Yeah, I heard
he
you
went
said that.
running over there and said he could help the woman, and they said, "No, we're going to have an ICE doctor treat her." She laid there for 15 minutes.
All right. Well, I wasn't there, and neither were you, so everything you're saying is what you've gathered from the media. And, there's probably a lot more to this story than the media is telling.
Well, you can see in the videos the car was barely moving. So, I mean, even...
Oh, now it was moving, though. It was moving. Why should it have been moving when they told her to stop and get out? Why should it have been moving?
Because she was afraid.
Oh, okay.
That woman just dropped off her 6-year-old son at school.
Was she also afraid when she tracked ICE twice other times that day and tried to prevent them? And when she blocked the road?
How do you know that's true?
Well, I don't know. How do you know what you're saying?
I'm saying isn't
well,
true.
That's right. Now I'm asking you, how do you know what you're saying is true if you don't think what I'm saying is true? You don't. Neither of us do.
Well, I know what I saw with my own eyes. The car was barely moving. And
then I go back to what I said. Why should it have been moving at all? And don't tell me she was afraid.
She was trying to get away because
and why should
she was afraid.
Why should she have been getting away if she was given a lawful order?
Because she was afraid.
So if you get stopped on the highway and you're afraid of the police officer, do you have a right to back your car up and pull forward and disappear?
I mean, as far as they're trying to run the guy over, the car was going so slow, there was no way she could have hit him.
All right. Well, time will tell. I'm sure it'll end up in court.
The country is full of fear and hate right now. We'll see what happens at the elections.
That's the key.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye now. And let's talk to Jeff in Bay City. Jeff, good morning.
Why, that was very interesting. How are you today, Art? Happy New Year.
I'm well. Happy New Year to you, too.
And, I would have to agree with this young lady that just hung up because there's a lot of hate. And, sadly, it seems to come from the Democrat side. My life experience, that's what I found out. They just start off yelling and screaming and want to throw tantrums. And, the biggest thing that's so sad is everybody referring to them as ICE, and I would love to see that stop. Immigration Customs Enforcement Officers.
Well, they refer to themselves as ICE.
Yeah, but the reason that they're abbreviating it